Incredible. At almost 40 years old, LeBron James is quite literally the man on Team USA. It's amazing to see that after all these years of displaying his prowess through many different stages, he is still making plays that single-handedly determine the outcome of the game at the highest level. Team USA was just in a dogfight in their last two games against South Sudan and Germany, and there were a lot of the same issues within those games. Regarding defensive coverages, USA got burned behind the arc for running drop coverage. On top of that, once USA switched to a switching look, they were getting torched in isolation matchups. Like you got Wenyen Gabriel out here hitting pick and pop threes. Carlik Jones, a person that I've never heard of, but now I do, was taking Bron off the dribble. JT Thor was hitting step back jumpers over AD. I mean, it was insane. It looked like Team USA was actually the less talented team. Sudan had guys crashing the glass and getting out in transition. Team USA actually came back into the game, and after some not so great executed possessions, Team USA was down 1, and Bron came to save the day with the game winner. Against Germany, they were taking advantage of USA's switching look the same way Australia did by slipping and not making contact with ball screens. Now, part of it was Germany executing good slips, but part of it also had to do with Team USA's guard defenders just not doing a great job executing good switches, which we'll talk more in depth about later on. But Team USA actually adjusted to this by having their bigs that are lifted up on the perimeter sink down to either help or switch off the smaller defender. The rebounding issues were also apparent in this game as well. The starting lineup was horrible. In addition, in both games, the ball was sticking instead of moving. There wasn't any consistency during the game, nor was there any against South Sudan. It was like they scored, we would score, we missed, they got out in transition and scored, they took their foot off the gas, and some guys were able to make shots on our team, and then now we're up, and then it becomes a close game down the stretch. It was an up and down type of game, and we didn't have any stability until about somewhere in the 4-minute mark when LeBron James took over with some incredible plays that swayed the game in our favor. The score was 82-81, and B dribbles into a post-up. Germany preloads the help with Schroeder on the baseline and another player from the entry pass, and as soon as the help sinks deep, Bron cuts and finishes through traffic. Immediately after that play, Dennis Schroeder throws a pass down the court, who finds another player running the floor, and there's nobody between him and the basket. Bron sprints back down the floor after scoring to break that play up with a transition steal. Huge play that would have been an easy deuce since Germany was playing with a lot of pace the entire game. After that, Bron gets the ball in transition, gets into the low post immediately, drives baseline, and beautifully beats the low man with a step through. Then Bron secures a couple of huge defensive rebounds that resulted in fouls from Germany, which put them in the bonus. So Bron took advantage of it by being aggressive and getting to the charity stripe. The score is now 86-87. Daniel Tice plays way off of LeBron into the paint. A pass from Devin Booker on the left baseline to Anthony Davis on the left high post, to then a simple swing pass to LeBron on the right slot, and Bron knocks down the easy catch and shoot 3. And then the dagger was delivered when Bron took Schroeder into the paint off the dribble, drives towards the baseline, beats the low man help the same way he did earlier with a step through, and ices the game. Just like that, the game was sealed. Team USA had never had a stretch even close to that during the game. It was more of a you go, I go type of game, and LeBron, from all of the plays that I just listed, slowly steered the ship in the right direction. Every single issue that I just mentioned was covered. Rebounding issues, ball/player movement, 3-point shooting, defense in half court and transition, and paint touches/points. LeBron James took care of it all just in 4 minutes. Everything that was going wrong for Team USA, once Bron locked in, it was game over. Absolutely insane. It makes you think about how good Bron would be today if he was still 33 or 34 years old. Being almost 40, Bron has to play in a conservative way where he plays in spurts. But imagine if he pushes this kind of pace and effort throughout the entire game. He would without question be the greatest player in the world right now. Like, that's one of Bron's weaknesses with his game today. There's not a lot of consistency with the way that he plays in terms of effort. But when the moment mattered the most, he was able to do it under the bright lights. He's truly a one-of-one talent and is a part of the GOAT conversation for a reason. Throughout my entire time watching the game, I've never seen another player control and take over a game down the stretch the way that Bron can. As a diehard Warriors fan, I'm so happy to say that I've never been one to hate on LeBron. Like you already know, Bron and Steph fans do not get along. If you go on Twitter, they're always at constant war with each other. But me, I'm truly different. I don't care about any of that. I'm truly grateful to witness Bron's greatness every time he plays, and I'm just delighted to say that I can confidently say I've never been one to take his game for granted. So now let's expand on the issues that I mentioned earlier that Team USA is having in their last 2 games. That's been a major issue, specifically in the starting lineup. Steve Kerr has elected to play a 3-guard lineup with Steph, Drew, Book, Bron, and Embiid. In my last video, I said I don't have an issue, nor do I think it will be a massive problem if Steph, Bron, and Tatum are in the starting lineup. And if you don't remember why I said that, it's because all three of those guys understand 5-out concepts in order to encourage ball and player movement. They understand how to create advantages for the team. However, if you're going to play a 3-guard lineup alongside Joel Embiid, now we've got an issue on our hands. Why? Because LeBron and Embiid are not a great rebounding duo. LeBron is a good rebounder, but as we know, the man is pushing 40. He can't rebound at an elite level for the entire game. It's just not sustainable. Joel Embiid is 7 feet, but he's not a great rebounder. When you watch him play, there's not enough effort from him on the glass, despite being the biggest player on the floor. Part of the reason why these international teams can offensively rebound much easier. And speaking of offensive rebounding, Embiid can't do that either, at all actually. Offensive rebounding has a lot to do with mindset, and the guy is just uninterested in putting pressure on the offensive glass. According to some statistics from Cleaning the Glass, Embiid has a 7.7 offensive rebounding percentage per field goal and a 22.9 defensive rebounding percentage per field goal. So not bad, but also not great. But the point here is that there's not enough urgency. There's other players on the team that can rebound much better, and Embiid is not a great athlete. Speaking of not so great athletes, Devin Booker playing the 3 will definitely hurt the rebounding. He's not a great rebounding player at the 3 position. He rebounds well playing at the 2 or the 1. In order for him to rebound at a high level at the 3 against these bigger wings, he's gotta be an elite athlete, which he's not. Drew Holiday is the only one that has any desire to grab rebounds, and Steph isn't responsible for getting rebounds. In order to fix this, Steve Kerr has to play Jason Tatum at the 3 in the starting lineup. He rebounds very well at that position. He's 6'10" and a good enough athlete to do so consistently. If not, then it's time we bring Anthony Davis into the starting lineup for rebounding purposes. He's a much better player slash athlete to rely on as a rebounder. This is very important because both South Sudan and Germany rebounded much better than Team USA throughout the majority of the game. This allows them to have second chance opportunities and play with more pace, something that Team USA needs to do but also struggles to defend, and they can do that by cleaning up the boards consistently. Another issue that Team USA is having is generating high quality shots or having good offensive possessions. And the common theme here for Team USA is that the ball is sticking a lot more. There's not a lot of motion. Guys are kind of just standing around on the perimeter, allowing other players to run ball screens and play one-on-one basketball. In my last video, I previously mentioned guys like Joel Embiid and Anthony Edwards that are victims of this, and they still are, but as of recently they've been getting better. Like Ant's been screening a lot more, he's been cutting a little bit more, as well as running DHOs. Joel Embiid is also doing similar things, although there are still a lot of missed reads and decisions. But more specifically, Devin Booker hasn't been the best at flowing with the offense in the last 2 games. There were many possessions where Book would just force a ton of shots early, he would engage in more isolation matchups, and in return, it would destroy the flow of the game. And on top of that, despite him being a good movement shooter, he hasn't moved a whole lot without the ball. There has been a ton of possessions where Steph sets pin downs or down screens for him, and he just doesn't move. He elects to stay stagnant, which leads to less movement on the offensive end. I personally believe that Book should play with the bench because he can be more free with those group of guys. AD, Bam, and White are very good ball movers who can extend advantages and finish plays. If Book decides that he wants the ball more in his hands, since he doesn't look very comfortable without the ball. The rebounding is obviously not an issue, so he doesn't have to carry that load. Another thing that I want to mention is that in regards to the ball sticking more for Team USA, giving Tyrese Haliburton some PT could be a good idea. He was the leader of the best offensive rated team last season, he was the assist leader, and his team threw the most amount of passes last season. So clearly Tyrese is part of an environment where there's a lot of movement with the players and the ball. So of course everyone's thinking play Tyrese more. Well actually there are 2 issues regarding that move. The obvious is that Tyrese is just not a good enough defender to be a consistent rotation player. He doesn't provide enough resistance at the POA to where backline guys don't always have to help him. And his perimeter defense can be a liability against these international guards. The second reason is that Team USA is not a high-paced team. This isn't a team that plays particularly fast. The Indiana Pacers were second in pace last season, and there are a ton of guys on this team just jogging up the floor and playing more of a methodical style of basketball. So to summarize, Team USA plays more half-court instead of full-court basketball. So adding Tyrese isn't going to guarantee guarantee to unlock his playmaking ability because all 4 other guys aren't always on the same page of playing fast. Now of course Tyrese can encourage it on the team, but we just don't know for sure. If the offense isn't flowing in some games, and it's clearly a big problem, playing Tyrese can improve that. But there are going to be games where the defense is going to be more of a priority, so Steve Kerr might play White more. Or he might play both, you never know with him. It just depends on how the game is going. The last issue that I want to address for Team USA is the defense. Now Team USA has been mixing their coverages between switching and dropping, and the good news is that they've adjusted to their matchups. However, it seems as though problems that involve slips and cuts to the basket are constant issues for the backline. Too many players get caught on the top side, trailing the play, and it collapses the defense. Guys also don't execute good switches too, and usually guys in the back line either don't put in a ton of effort or they can't recognize what's going on. Why? Probably because they're superstars, not role players. This is something that is not too familiar with them. But the one person that I want to talk about specifically is Anthony Edwards. Now obviously we know Ant is a great athlete and he's one of the best two-way players in the league. He can guard one-on-one on an island with no problem, contain the ball, and force pull-up jumpers over the top. He may even pick your pocket, but in terms of overall POA defense, Ant still has ways to go. He's not a good screen navigator, he gets caught easily on screens, and his defensive IQ is not that great. For an example, if you're chasing over the top of a ball screen and you know you're going to switch, make sure you put in the effort to get in front of the screener and the basket. If not, veer back switch and scram switch it in the back. These are things that someone like Ant should be able to do with his athletic gifts, but it hasn't exactly clicked for him yet. On top of that, he needs to understand which players to go over and under ball screens. Like, I'm not gonna lie bro, against Australia I had to watch this man go over Josh Giddey ball screens and I just wanted to slap him upside his head because Josh Giddey was shooting like this during the game, and you mean to tell me that that's the man that you went over on ball screens? His team defense is also not that great, especially in the back line with the front court players. He doesn't understand who he should guard if he's the weak side defender, nor does he give a ton of effort. Like for an example, the final defensive possession of the game against South Sudan, Carlik Jones drives middle, AD camps in the paint as the low man, his defender is in the dunker spot, Jones puts up the floater and AD contests it without fouling. Meanwhile on the weak side, if you're paying attention, Ant is the corner defender and he's boxing out his man in the corner. Now here's the thing, I completely get it. In his head he's guarding his guy and stopping him from crashing the glass, but there's the issue. He thinks of defense as himself instead of as a team. Wenyen Gabriel is the closest person to the rim. He needs to tag AD's man to prevent him from getting a putback attempt at the rim. Instead, Derek White comes from the nail area and blocks the attempt, saving a guaranteed game-winning putback even though it was not his assignment. If Ant was instead in a help the helper situation, White could easily take Ant's defender and Bam could take the guy in the nail area. So even though Ant does a very good job holding his own defensively against his own matchup, he needs to be a little more impactful defending as a team. Being a team defender is very important if he's going to play the 3-man off the bench. So to conclude, if Ant makes better defensive decisions, intelligence, effort, and overall POA defense, it's going to take another generational great talent to overtake him as the best two-way player for years to come.